Joining the Rolling Wall podcast to co-host a Southern Grand Final recap is Mid-North Coast President Steve Rees. How's it going, Steve?
Good, Benny. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm good. And I've got a bit of a question. I've got a Rolling Wall podcast team going from all the guests and co-hosts.
Oh, yeah.
What side of the scrum do you want to play on?
Oh,
I'm
tight.
really short on props.
Yeah, tight head, mate. I'll take it.
Tight end. Also, I'll put you in the team. I tell you what, there's Wallaby World Cup winners. That's a pretty good team. We're going to get up on the socials probably just after this crazy final season
Mate,
finishes.
I'll just be happy to make the cut.
Yeah, well, I haven't got a spot, mate. I might be the lead cheerleader of this team. It's not a bad team so far for a relatively niche podcast. But yeah, why not? Just keep
Yeah,
aiming big.
absolutely, mate.
Well, this weekend just gone, we had the Southern Grand Finals in Naviac, and yeah, I from afar up my way, it looked like it was a cracker weekend, and yeah, you were there to watch it with your own two eyes. How were these Grand Finals?
It was unbelievable. Obviously, you were doing commentary duties for the Northern Finals, but mate, I held the fort for you. Mate, they were two absolutely cracking games of footy. They were deserved premiers in the end, both minor and major premiers in the women's and the men's. Um, and their opponents on the day, they really, yeah, they really aimed up. They were just fitting games. It was unbelievable, to be honest. The women's was a rugged affair, so it was tight. It was I think the score, it was 15-5, the final score, I believe.
Yeah,
Uh,
15-5, and
yeah,
those two teams, the Rats and Gloucester Cockies, I don't know what it is about them. They've had a ding dong battle for 3 years.
yeah,
We know last year the Gloucester Cockies got up, beating the Rats at home. You could probably call this a revenge game. It was, and Warhope Thunder really came out of their shell the second half of the season and really challenged Drew with the Rats, who actually undefeated minor major premiers too, which is a really cool thing that you don't see very often at all.
yeah, 100%. I mean, they had a draw with Warhope, but that game
Yeah,
was off at halftime because of injury. Uh,
yeah,
I think that they were probably robbed a little bit in that regard, but still undefeated nonetheless. And having said that, they played, 3 games in 9 weeks as well at the back end of the season. There was three forfeits against them and a washout. So they weren't able to play much footy, and there was very little continuity throughout the season. So the fact that they were able to put on the performance they did in the major, and then to back it up in the grand final, again having another week off in there, uh,
yeah.
mate, was unbelievable. And I can't. I'll declare that I'm also very biased. I'm also the president and a player for Manning. So, and a lot of those girls form the committee of our club, and I spend a lot of time with them. So I am very biased, and I don't apologise for that. But they certainly deserve it. They are the heart and soul of the Manning River Rugby Club, and the performance for the last 3, 4, 5 years have been outstanding. You mentioned last year's grand final, and there was probably some calls that went against them in the grand final that probably shaped the way that grand final was played. Which is rugby, it happens, and they were burning from that. They were wounded after that loss last year, and they were pretty hell bent on getting revenge this year. So I think that's probably a fair word to use. We'll go with it. And the fact that they were able to play Gloucester, even with the emergence of Warhope, just made it that much sweeter. So there's certainly no love lost between those girls. They all came together exceptionally well when they made the Southern representative side this year. But yeah, back on against each other, there's certainly no love lost. So two fantastic groups of women, obviously, that are very good at rugby. Uh, but yeah, the Rats definitely deserve to win it.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch the video. A little bit of fun and games in the video in the first half, but I understand the first half try stores with Vanessa Emersley and Danielle Ridgway. I didn't quite see the footage. It might be uploaded soon, hopefully. But yeah, so I think it was 10-0 at half time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah. So just a quick story on that one. So the Willamette Club did a fantastic job hosting the day. They really did. Everything was set up perfectly. I hope they made some good cash out of the day. Um, but yeah, there was one of their volunteers was helping set up the PA system ready for the after-match presentations and unplug the Starlink of the broadcast. So we may not get that miss section back, unfortunately. But yeah,
So
it was 10-0 at halftime, I think. 10-0, 10-5.
I saw a try in the second half to Gloucester. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
It was
yeah,
10-0 at halftime.
yeah. Well, that might be a good time to plug the Rolling More podcast. Is on X. Elon Musk is one of his other interests. So yeah, jump on X and follow us there. But yeah, so 10-0 at half time, all to play with, 20-minute halves there. And
Hmm.
what I see in the second half, a lot more. I think they might have plugged that plug back in. And yeah, so beat me up. Scotty worked.
Yeah.
And that second half looked very, very tight. And yeah, Keely Holden probably in the end all but seals the game with a great try under the post to go up 15-0, the captain of the Rats there.
Yeah. And there's no secret that she's been one of the better players for a number of years. To be honest, it was one of her quieter games. Not I think I don't think there was a bad player in the Taree side. Um, they all did their job fantastically well. Our prop Jess Bridges was the player of the match. She had some barnstorming runs, but it was her work around the ruck that got her the vote in the end. So the vote went 3-1 her way. Um,
Yep.
Danielle Ridgway, our young halfback, she's only 17, and she was outstanding. So she was the sort of runner up. If there was a runner up medal, she would have got it, and she was everyone's second pick as well. So we were quite lucky with the way they played. But Keels is she's saying that she's hanging up the boots, but I hope that's not the case because she's too bloody good not to, and she's still young enough. So anyway, that's her call. But she's been consistently, I think, the best player in this competition for the last probably 4 or 5 years. The way she controls the game, you see very few halves certainly in my experience in women's rugby that can control a game. We're lucky in the South that we've got Keely for Taree, and then you've got Charlotte Maslin for Gloucester. And Charlotte's outstanding the way she can control the game as well. Thankfully, she had one of her quieter games. Having said that, she still made a number of breaks and some barnstorming tackles. Like, I don't think I want to be tackled by her, that's for sure. For a half,
Uh,
gee, she can hit.
yeah, yeah. I saw some big hits, and
Mm.
Gloucester pushed them all the way. And Kelly Rees with an absolute offload of, seeing Super Rugby, you can see in Test matches, Wallabies, the Brocs, whatever, giving it to Amy Schultz, and suddenly it was 15-5 with all to play for, and you could see the intensity go up the last few minutes, and the crowd really get into it.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And Tari did it the hard way, like we usually do in the men's and the women's. So there was a couple of cards there as well, and they defended those really well, which is a credit to the ladies. But um, I think the way that Tari played, they didn't allow Gloucester to get into their game. Um, there were some players that probably had quiet games from Gloucester. Um, usually some of those ladies are a bit more impactful than what they were on the weekend. But I think that's not a knock on them, but certainly a compliment to the way that Tari played, especially with the physicality that Tari played with. And Hannah Yates, the Gloucester captain, managed that. I mentioned that, I should say, in the post-match speech, with the physicality and how sore they are after they play our girls. We don't play opposed to the women in the men's in Tari men's because they bash us. So
Yeah.
but yeah, there was certainly the way that Tari played limited Gloucester's opportunity. They dominated through the forwards. Obviously there's a couple of country players in Charlotte Maslin and Connie Searle for Gloucester, and Connie had probably one of the quietest games I've seen her play in a number of years. And I think it was because she wasn't given the opportunity. I think the girls just went out there on a bit of a mission, particularly Jess Bridges, who ended up with player of the match. She was a woman possessed. She was in everything, and she was definitely the deserved winner. But her physicality and the way that she played with ball in hand in defence, but particularly around the ruck, was probably the difference in the end, to be fair.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see. Just, 'cause, like, I said, I saw a try in the second half to Gloucester. So yeah, like, yeah, it's just amazing to see just. 'Cause, like, I said, I saw a try in the second half to Gloucester. So yeah, like, yeah, it's just amazing to see just. 'Cause, like, like so many good there. Like Warhope Thunder pushed Gloucester the week before. Like, Gloucester had played three very tough games in 3 weeks too, which probably, like might have taken a bit of gas out of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like a little bit of a bit of wet weather. A few teams couldn't quite make the numbers up, but you get from afar you could really feel there's a shift, and that the women's comp is really rebounding after COVID and going from strength to strength with so many players going down and playing for the Hunter Wildfires and Jack Scott Cup too. And I dare say, if Danielle Ridgway hasn't done it yet, she'll be doing it next year.
Oh, mate, she's definitely got the potential. Danielle, if she can get the confidence to go with her ability, she'll be unstoppable. So we don't, obviously, if she gets an opportunity, then we'll support that and encourage it. But at this stage, she will still be around Tari for a few more years, and she'll certainly be a mainstay in the outside. So
Yeah,
I think it comes back to the coaching as well. If I'm being honest, I know that Chris Marchant, for the men, has been doing it for a number of years. And the way he goes about it, and the care that he has and the love that he has for rugby, but also for that group of women, like, I can't speak higher. I can't speak more highly of what Macho does out there. And then for Tari, you've got, Ben Griffiths in his first year this year has taken the girls to a whole new level, off the back of Dave Rees and Bronson Rangi doing it for the last couple of years with our women. Benny's really just taken them to that next level. And you see a bit more clarity in the way that they play, in the game plan, their structure. To be honest, that the women's team have played with 1,000 times more structure than what our men's have this year. And it's just, again, comes back to the coaching and what those two blokes, particularly in Ben and Marcho, have done for those women has been outstanding. And the results there, I mean, it's the same, obviously, for Ryan Macy at Old Bar. He's obviously done a great job out there to get those girls
yeah,
up and running and making,
causing
the
trouble
finals.
every now and then.
Yeah, 100%. And if those ladies can stick together, then they'll be like Warhope this year, where they've just been able to compete on a more regular basis, but also dominate patches of games as well. So the comp itself in the women's in the South is really going from strength to strength.
Yeah, and I imagine Foster will be leaving no stone unturned to pick up a women's team again next year, and hopefully see a
Yeah.
16 women's comp next year.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's the goal. We're hoping for a 16 women, 16 men.
Yeah,
There's some whispers around Gloucester, so hopefully we'll see a re-emergence of the Gloucester men in the next couple of years, if not next year, the year after.
yeah, I have definitely heard whispers that if it's not now, it's when for Gloucester, which is really exciting, and a team with a lot of history. And I can remember going up there as a kid and watching my old man all but playing the snow.
Uh,
So yeah,
yeah. Oh, and you knew it when you went up and played, the Gloucester teams of old, you knew it. I first started playing for Tari when I was 16, and you'd go up and you'd play against the likes of your Gary Threadgates, and yeah, you learnt pretty quickly where not to put your head on. I know that for sure. So
mm,
be outstanding to get those guys back. But again, to have 16 competitions is really what we're aiming to get to.
yeah, I can't imagine putting your head in the wrong spot and then getting a cold shower at District Oval just to cap it off.
Yeah, it was always an inviting place to go.
Uh, and the roundabout's all right. I do like the roundabout in.
Roundabout is always a good time, and the fire was always on, so there's no complaints there.
Uh, well, crossing over to the men's game, Willamber Bulls. Some would say they did it the hard way, but in the end, they salute. They go minor major premiers and 2 out of 3 after winning 2022 premiership.
Yeah,
Uh,
you are right. They did do it the hard way. And it was probably the competition itself was tighter than it has been in a number of years, I would say. Warhope were a bit of a disappointment, and Old Bar again struggled with that consistency. But when they were on, they were very good. And again, that group stays together. I think next year the competition itself will be even tighter than what it was this year. But yeah, the competition, it came down. The minor premiership came down to the last round, and there was the three teams in Willamber, Foster, and Taree that were all fighting for it. Willamber were the favourites, deservedly so, due to their back end of the year.
Yeah.
And then the major semi was just a bash 'em up affair, to be honest. It really hurt Tari. We played 3 games in 7 days in the week before the major semi, including one of them against Willamber on the Saturday. And then we had to back up against Willamber the following Saturday in the major semi. And it was, 12-8 final. It was everything you'd expect of a final, that low scoring. Two teams bashed each other for 80 minutes. And not to take anything away from Foster in the prelim, but we were wounded. Tari couldn't compete with Foster because we just got bashed in the semi, and it went both ways. So the fact that they had the week off and they were able to come back and play Foster in the grand final, I think was a major benefit to those guys as well.
Yeah, well, not forget that Warhope led Foster by a comfortable margin at halftime in the minor semi too. So, yeah, like that, it really was a comp that 4-3-1 was
Yeah,
not a lot in there. And
100%. And probably that, just to comment on that game too, Benny, was the the Foster team bombed about 6 tries in the first half of that game. Their outside centre, I think he's a young Irish fella, but as quick as they come. But he could not catch a cold that the first half of that minor semi. And yeah, there was 4 or 5 times where the line was wide open and he would have been away and just dropped the ball. So the score probably didn't reflect how dominant Foster were in that minor. And certainly their second half showed it. But the way that they came out in the prelim, and just, mate, they I think it was 24-0 at halftime from memory, and they were just exceptional. They were outstanding.
yeah,
Definitely deserved their spot. And the grand final was an absolute fitting end to the season, to be honest. There was, as you
yeah,
say, 17-7 at halftime, and then 31-17, I think, in the end.
yeah. Well, in the end, Chris Tout just from 40 metre out just puts the gas on
Oh,
and scores the first try for the Bulls at 7-0 after 11, and the crowd at all Ferris Sporting Complex are going nuts.
yeah,
And something in Foster just switched, and suddenly they just said, "Nah, we're not doing this,"
yeah,
and they go and bang bang, and within the 90th minute they got 2 tries to Callum Crawford Walker, and yeah, Jesus, and their hands. I just watching those replays, I'm like, whoa, Jesus, they just had a 5 minutes of excellence.
yeah. And the whole game, I don't think either Foster or Willamber, I don't think anyone was bad on the field that whole game. The difference was a couple of key moments from key players, but certainly in that first half, the class of Ryan Pike inside centre, mate, he was outstanding. Like, if they win the game, he's probably the player of the match by a country mile, to be fair.
Oh,
And he's outstanding. He's his attacking ability is exceptional, but he also hits like a freight train. So he's everyone's eyes up in defence watching him, which was on display in the grand final.
yeah, we crosses in the 28th minute after Pulso.
Yeah,
With the hands and first tee was 60 metres out, and then 12, 13, 12. And I tell you what, it's just, well, Amber just didn't know what hit him. And you think there at 28 minutes in, Foster's scored 3 in a row. They're going up 17-7. You think, well, maybe they're just going to keep rolling downhill.
yeah, 100%, and it looked like that way. But that Willamber team, they have not changed in however many years, where they're just never out of it. They got some fantastic players. And there's probably some bit part players in there as well that just do their job. And then let those other guys perform. Chris was outstanding. And in the big moments, which is what he's consistently done over the years, is in the big moments he takes his opportunities. But the way that Jackson Martin led them around the field, from halfback, and particularly that Luke Martin, I thought at number 8 was strong. I noticed Dan Sawyer gave a massive rap to their second rower as well. His name escapes me, and he did have a fantastic game. But it was one of those games, as I say, I don't think there was any bad players. Everyone everyone competed, everyone had a crack, and it was really just those key moments that got it in the end. Like, Towdy runs away right on full time, and scores from about 50 out. It
Yeah,
went through 4 or 5 defenders. Yeah, yeah, but the whole way leading up to that, Foster had the momentum. They had a player sent off, which looked like a pretty clear case of a shoulder to the chin. So, um, you know, Mick made the call and he was off. But Foster seemed to have the ascendancy. They had the most of the ball in the back end of the second half, and they were attacking the line consistently. But Willamber's defense was just outstanding. Um,
yeah. We said about it this weekend.
yeah,
But yeah, I think a team might have defended a 5 metre scrum with 11 players on Saturday. But yeah, that was insane. Um, yeah, well, 17-7 at half time. I wrote in the recap, people went to the beer line, went to the food line, and they both probably thought they were a chance to win it. But
yeah.
everyone agreed that this is living up to probably from afar the best Southern competition in a long, long time.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. It had that feel like being there live. It had that feel that it was still genuinely anyone's game. Like, um, yeah, it just was that kind of game, and then turned out to be the case as well.
Yeah, well, to get back on there, everyone's got their feed, got a coldie in their hand, and 48th minute, Alan Ayuk just explodes from a quick tap 5 meters out, and suddenly it's a 3 point game and 30 minutes to go, and it's all to play for.
Oh, 100%. And he was outstanding as well. He's had a great year, Alan. And whether they play him in the centers or a breakaway, he's always willing and he's always into it. So, um, I actually thought he would hurt him being at center. When I saw the team list, I thought his best position's in the forwards, but mate, he really held an account of himself, and I can see now why they played him there for sure.
Yeah, like just to have that the nous about him, and there's a player up and North Felipe Tuava for the Hastings Bailey Vikings who just does that just nearly Corabetti like, and it's a real game changer. Just someone just on the boil and got the strength down low to get through. The game really tightens up. It's a 3 point game in Dolphins, and in the 61st minute, big Ashley Rushby, the 22. He's too big. He's too strong. He rolls. He spins through him,
Yeah,
and suddenly, you know, since the 17th minute, it's the first time they've been in front. And must give a big shout out to it's Mr. Holbrook, isn't it? The goal kicking hooker.
yeah, Luke
Yeah,
Albrook, leading point scorer for the Southern Division in 24.
yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah, and from my understanding, 4 from 4 for the conversion tee and 1 from 1 for the penalty goal tee. So, and in a game where, like you said just before, um, it's 7 points down. They play Jesus late, late, late. There's a lot of Foster gives it. They're all way deep in injury time, and if they run away and score, we suddenly got extra time. That every point he gets for 11 of them is very like is crucial.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, and he does an incredible amount of work around the field as well. That forward pack is not the biggest. Their scrum's not the strongest. Um, they certainly have a crack. But Luke, the amount of cleanup work that Luke does and the amount of ball running, is exceptional. And then when you look at how many points he scored, I think it was 92 points he got as most points for the year. He scored one try.
Yeah,
So to see that, and again in a grand final in those pressure moments, mate, he takes every opportunity. When you know that you're going to turn your fives into sevens and you're going to take your threes when they're on offer, that's unbeatable. You can't expect more than that.
yeah. Well, Ashley Rusby's try was only 5 meters in from the sideline. So pressure moment there to extend that lead out to 4 from 1,
Yeah,
and from 2 to 4.
it's not like Ash to be hiding out on the wing, running in the 5 meter line. That's what is that?
Nah, no, not a tactic, and like I know people from across the Mid-North Coast, a lot of people wouldn't see too much Southern rugby, just hear bits and pieces. But I think one of the telling moments is at 21-17, and they get a penalty and they kick it. That they know that the scoreboard is premium and we don't care if we get the jeers. They put the penalty over and go 24-17. And I
Yeah.
just think that, you know, these people are playing the best comp in their area, and there's some bloody good players down there. And the rugby smarts is just that's just rugby smarts, like like you said, Foster had a lot of possession, a lot of attack, and they just knew, well, we'll just it doesn't matter, whatever the scoreboard says in the end is the winner.
Yeah, 100%. And that's again that on the ground watching it, that's exactly how it felt, And Willamber's done that all year. And again, they've got a very high rugby IQ in that side. Um, their number 10, Daniel Tout, probably doesn't get the recognition he deserves for the year that he's had, but unfortunately he's going to hear me say something nice, and that's he had a great year. He'll dine on that for a while, knowing Daniel, but that's okay too. But he had a great year, mate, and it was those blokes with that rugby IQ that made the difference in the end. Taking the points, and that's the way Luke Martin leads the team from number 8. He obviously makes the call when they're going for points and when they're not, and he pulls the right rein every time. Luke was outstanding in the Southern team this year, and probably was unlucky not to make Mid North Coast, but he's come a mile. And Luke Jacko, there's a lot of fantastic blokes in that side. So you got to be happy for him. It hurts, but you got to be happy for him.
Yeah, I know 2022 for people follow the comp very closely was a bit of a quiet year after COVID. Only a very small amount of teams, and remember that 2017 was I believe the Williams' first premiership too. So they haven't had a bucket load of success since forming in 2007.
Yeah. They've always been there or bouts, but yeah, as you say, they've won, a couple since then, and they're strong every year. You know what you're going to get with them. You know they're going to be tough games. They're not always going to be high scoring, but you're going to be in with a fight, and they're just they've historically been very technically good. Led by blokes like Dan Hessing, who's was an outstanding player in our competition for a long time. Blokes like that, Ash Rushby, through the years as well. Don't get me wrong. There's a number of them, but yeah, Willamber have been there or thereabouts, and then to see them, get the rewards is obviously very, very nice for that club as well.
Yeah, I had a bit of a conversation with Dan in the year, and I think one of the coolest things is that I think he said 4 of his players live in Naviac.
Yeah.
Like it's just a ragtag collection of all the villages and places around. And I just think that's community rugby at its heart, and it's so good to see. And yeah,
Sure.
it's like let's walk back to the pub and then walk home. Yeah, home's 30 kilometers that way.
Oh, for
And
sure.
yeah,
Mind you, man, the 4 blokes that live in Nabiac, that's 80% of their population. Like it's a sort of so.
yeah, that's for sure. I tell you what, for a small town, it's got a great pub there. Though I do love stopping off at the Naviac Hotel on the way to
Yeah.
Newcastle and Sydney.
Oh, mate, it's a ripper. And Matty, who's the publican there, he's also the major sponsor of Willamber and puts a huge amount of time and money into the club. So the Nabiac Hotel, if you get a chance, get out there and have a look. Matty was behind the bar the whole day on Saturday as well. So Dan, I don't know if you know this, but Dan Sawyer coached the game from a hotel room in Sydney off the live stream. So Matty and some of those other people that stepped up did a great job on the day, but certainly stop at the Nabiac Hotel.
Yeah, well, a great time there. Shout out the podcast proud sub-competition coverage partner, Shellie's Countrywear, which is also just a stone's throw from the Naviac Hotel, and they've been great this year coming on board, helping getting the message out there. There's a few little bits and pieces of costs and stuff. So yeah, just trying to keep that cost neutral. And yeah, if you can get in there and tell them more podcasts that much appreciated. Well, in the end, it's Chris Tout who puts the cherry on top. Like you said, 50 metres down the sideline. And if you want to start a party in Nabiac, and I said, like a few little murmurs came out of Nabiac, and a few people stopped in and said, oh, how the hell did I accidentally crumble the biggest party of the year in Nabiac? Yeah. He started it 50 metres out. Bang. And if it was the other way around, it'd be 24 all. It'd be, 24 all, and we'd have extra time.
And that's the way it felt, Benny, was that Foster were about to even up, even that you talk about Lukey Holbrook's goal kicking, the Foster weren't much different. You expected them to score and then convert it and then go on extra time. And in my view, as a bit of a neutral observer, extra time would have been the absolute fitting result for that game. But again, the moments and Chris, like he's done year on year, he took his opportunity and he busted through and he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, like you said, big name players step it up and they just take their moments by the scruff. And there's a certain team that plays in green and gold, and we all follow, and we're praying and hoping that two or three of them emerge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you, okay, yeah, sentiments of extra time, because that major semi final in the North last year, there was extra time between the Snappers and Pirates. I still don't. 2017 grand final was good, but I don't know if you can top that. That was just, oh mate, extra 20 minutes of rugby when it's just you don't want to stop. You just want to put it on tap and sell it. It
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah. And look, I guess with the send off late in the second half, if it went to extra time, potentially William come home a lot stronger, but, maybe it was one of those, backs to the wall story. We'll never know, but it definitely felt like it would be fitting. And you were just expecting it. The amount of ball that Foster had and the amount of attack inside Williams 22, you were just waiting for it to be a draw and then to see what happened next. But
Yeah.
again, the big name players at Willamber, again, Jacko controlled them getting out of their end, and then Towdy got inside the half, and then that's all she wrote.
Yeah, like it, and congratulations to Wambley Bulls, like you said, minor major premiers, and a quick look to the 25. Doesn't it set up a cracking competition?
Oh,
Foster, within minutes of banging down the door, Rats, like 2 years. There's 2 years of pain now. Unfortunately, I don't want to bring it up,
well,
but yeah,
it probably goes back a bit further than that. That this year was the first year in 8 seasons that we haven't been in the grand final, and we've got 1.5 premierships out of it. In 8 years, and there's been some tough times. So there's a lot of people that are burning at Tari. We're looking for a new coach, and some new blood, some new players, and yeah, next year's competition is going to be unreal. If that Foster team can stay together, they can dominate for a number of years.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
we've
what
seen
can't,
them.
oh, sorry, Benny. What can't be understated is the job that Blake Paulson's done. So Paulso, he's a fantastic bloke. He's a great coach. He's been a very good player for a number of years, and he was on one leg in the grand final and still was one of the better performing players for Foster. Um, but the fact that he's been able to keep that team together, not forgetting that they forfeited a game because of numbers halfway through the season, and the way that he was able to galvanise that group and bring them back together, mate, I just can't speak highly enough of the job that he's done. But that side's electric. Their back line is unbelievable. You're talking about their hands and their skill set, second to none in the competition. If they can add a couple of players to it, then mate, they will be unstoppable.
Yeah, well, you talk about unfortunately not getting numbers for a game. I think it was a week before or 2 weeks before that they went to Gloucester and played with 13, got down to 12 and beat Wallhope under 33-32. And
Yeah.
it nearly washes up the season for Foster, I think. They come equal points with the Rats. There's a -1 for a forfeit,
Yeah.
and you lose 60-0 on the scoreboard. And I think they're for and against. They miss out on the second spot by 70 points, and you just actually wonder if they played on the later game on the Saturday in the first week of the finals. Is
Mm.
this a different story? So
Yeah.
that's 2 years of coming third for Foster, and yeah, so they will be hell bent on making sure they're in the top two at least, if not the top spot next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, oh man, I'm excited for what next year's going to bring. Like usually
Yeah.
usually this end of the year, everyone's a bit fatigued, but I think there's a few people already with an eye forward to next season, which is nice.
Yeah. I think with a lot, and in the Mid North Coast suffered a whole, but Southern suffered a lot worse than Northern. A lot of washouts early in the season.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, one thing we haven't touched on that I think we should is the quality of the refereeing of those games. So we had Greg Boyer do the women's game, and then we had Mick Worcester do the men's game. Two very different referees in terms of the way they referee. Greg's a lot more technical, uh, and Mick's more, he's an old prop, so
Yeah.
he runs around, and his feel of the game's exceptional. either one of them could have done first grade and either one of them could have done reserve grade. I think the year that Mick's had, he's probably deserved the men's grand final, but you don't, going back and rewatching those games and then being there on Saturday, there wasn't any moments that you thought, oh, this is a balls up here. It was one of the referees weren't part of it. The football was all between the two teams. And that they were really allowed to play by the way that the games were refereed. So we're extremely lucky to have Greg and Mick down in the south. That's for sure. And definitely the performance on the day, just shows how good they are.
Yeah, well, like you said, sometimes we forget that it's not just the 30 players take the field and the other 16 stand there waiting for their chance. It's a team of 3, 4, 5 that it's their biggest day of the year too, and they're volunteers. They're doing a thing they love, like, and maybe they can't be involved in the game playing, or they just always enjoyed officiating. And yeah, like we can't play without them, and it's really good to see not only them be rewarded with the appointments, but just have a game where because. I've done a small amount of refereeing, and you want all you want to do is have the game go ahead, but you don't want to be taught. You don't want to even be. You don't want to be seen in the background.
100%.
And
And
yeah,
and I believe that was the outcome on Saturday. I mean, you watched them from afar. Were there any moments that you kind of thought, well, that's ruined him here, or there was from my recollection and rewatching, I just don't see that as the case.
I think like watching them, and one of the clearest thing is that obviously the speed of the game was really good, so that really takes out a lot of that out. But decisions like no one really like went off the head and complained. That's normally a good sign. And they just got back to their job, and they knew that well, that's a 50-50, 60-40. We'll catch the next one, and these referees are in the zone doing that. So if we keep doing our job, they'll do their job, and that's really good. And I know that's not happens all the time, and
Yeah,
referees have some of the hardest jobs, and it's like and somehow a referee on a Saturday afternoon in Kos, Kempsey, Nabiak, Foster gets the same all about the same scrutiny as a referee in a test match, but the players don't, and
100%.
sometimes we forget about that. And yeah,
And look, that's not to say that we don't have, a lot of work to be done, but the guys that are putting their hand up and they are, the guys and girls that are doing the job, like you can't ask for more than that,
yeah.
and they're all out there having a crack. So
Oh, the best thing is, like, especially in the north, and it's been trickling down to the south too. But we're getting more and more referee coaches. We're getting more feedback. We're getting, you know, most clubs now are running a camera of Evo, something like that. Like the referees are getting access to that. I listen to some podcasts, and it's amazing how like professional referees how tight they are, and they actually clip all their stuff and they give themselves a scorecard, and then on Tuesday they'll email the coaches. So this is the Waratahs, the Crusaders, all those clubs, and they'll feedback that way. And
yeah,
it's really cool to think that they're not just there doing that walk away. That's what happened. They're clipping to get better because and yeah, like and it's happening at our levels too. Like whether it's referee, coach, or feedback, or video or Vivo, and yeah, and that's only going to be great for the game because
yeah,
like unfortunately, like love it or hate it, laws will keep changing. They'll keep you tinkering, probably more towards the speed and what the people think sells TV rights for the games. But yeah, it's a technical game to referee. But yeah,
yeah.
the finals up here and the finals I saw down there have been really won and decided by the players in the field.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I congratulate the zone for the funding, the additional funding that they've given the referees this year. The payments, referee payments increased this year for the first time in about 15 years. So everyone's trying to help facilitate the growth and to help support the referees. The system you're talking about with the scoring, that comes into effect next year where the coaches will be able to provide feedback to the referees coaches each week as well. So there's a number of positive things that are happening. It's great to see. But certainly, obviously you and I ran into each other in Coffs Harbour last Friday night, and watching all those kids run around refereeing up there, and then in Port Macquarie in the 2 weeks prior to that, if we can start getting some of those kids, and then particularly, players that are retiring that have that feel for the game, they might not be able to play anymore. They might, the body might be given way, but they need to get out and get a whistle, and be part of the solution for how we keep the game moving forward.
Oh yeah, like it's the best seat in the house, and perfect example, like you said, with the Friday night competitions in Port and Coffs Harbour, and there is games and things going on with school competitions and stuff in the southern part of the zone too, and so everyone's listening or hears or stuff like reach out, Mid North Coast Referees Association on Facebook, contact this podcast page, contact Steve. Like, there's so many opportunities, and the Rugby Australia itself is I love how that if you play a game in Cost, Naviac, Tari, whatever, your scorecard looks exactly like the one is. And
Yeah.
rugby's been panned, and yes, it's done a lot of lungs is bad, but rugby is for it, and some of those, and also some of the aids, they're really good. Like you said, be surprised just when you dig into the catalogue how much is there. So, and there's a lot of foundation courses be running early next year, probably some even before Christmas, and yeah, and I encourage anyone that's interested, reach out because we can't play without the referees, and no, they're as much as we might get a bit cranky at them, no, we do love them, and they're very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I sidetracked us a bit there.
Yeah. Well, I better take up all your time. You've probably got many other things to do. Off season starts for about 2 weeks, and I think seven season starts. So there's no rest in your job.
No, no, mate, there's some exciting stuff happening. So obviously this weekend's Northern Grand Final. So kicking off 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. So
Yeah, 9 grand finals.
I'll be there for all 9 of them, and I'm really looking forward to being up there for the day and catching up with the other club presidents and anyone that wants to have a chat. They're obviously welcome to. But yeah, to watch the rugby is going to be exciting, and then there's some really important strategy work that the board's going to be doing over the coming weeks and months as well prior to the AGM, and I'm excited to see what that gives us. There's probably something that we've lacked a little bit in the past is what our future direction looks like. What do we look like as a comp, and how do we get there? So the board's
Yeah.
working on the strategy piece, which then will generate an action plan. So there's a lot of work in the background that's happening, ready for next season and beyond. So it's exciting couple of weeks coming up, but certainly this weekend in Coffs Rugby Park is the place to be.
Yeah. So if you want to get up the Cost Rugby Park, obviously grand finals kick off from 8 a.m. all the way to 5:30 kick off in the first grade comp between Cost Harbour Snappers and the Hastings Valley Vikings. If you can't make it, you can watch on this on Rugby TV. And yeah, it's a small
Excellent.
subscription fee, but the best thing is you can choose Mid North Coast Rugby, and a very small percentage will come back to the zone. So it's a bit cool after last year that wasn't available.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mate, the other thing that not to forget on the live stream as well as the expert commentary from yourself. So that can't be.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't had the invitation email yet, but no, well, I'll be hopefully jumping on there and doing my best, and yeah, I've been able to commentate all the final series this year, so and no, it's been a great series, but I feel like Saturday under lights too, prime time is just, oh geez, we've had some cracker grand finals. We like last year the Pirates just come out of nowhere and just steamrolled them, but yeah, I got a funny feeling this one it might be still wondering in 84th minute, a bit like the game at Naviac. We're still 7 points in it at 84th minute.
Well, mate, we can only hope. We can only hope. So
Yeah.
thanks for everything you've done this year, and I look forward to catching up with you again after the grand finals.
Oh, certainly, yeah, and like just like you, the rugby never stops. More guests and all the other sevens and everything. But no, thank you very much. Get a cold one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.